How you going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. I wanted to catch up with you earlier, like closer to the event, but unfortunately I just couldn't make it. I had to travel.
Yeah,
But yeah. But
busy.
that's the year done, eh?
Yeah, for the Australian Superbike Championship, all finished now.
Mate, congratulations. Second place, like man, it was mathematically possible right to that qualifying, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, like it was. Yeah, mathematically possible, but probably quite unrealistic otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just the case of how it panned out throughout the year. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
needed to win more races, needed to finish closer to the front more often. So
Yeah, yeah, that's the reality, isn't it?
that's racing.
But you
Yeah,
I mean, you wrapped up with a win. I think they gave you the overall win for the final round, didn't they?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How do they calculate that? Because you got a first and a third, and so did Josh.
Yeah, but because I finished the last race ahead of Josh on the track, like I got a win in the last race and he came third. So it just goes on account back for whoever had the best result in the previous race. So
Yeah. Okay.
that's it. That's
I
it.
there is something I wanted to ask you about as usual, but it's to do with the new calendar that's coming out. But
Yes.
I'll ask you at the end of about that because I thought that was interesting that they revealed that.
Yeah.
Um, the okay, we had two rounds at the Bend, last race of the season. Race one, you got a third place, and basically, if you looked at it, you qualified second, and then it was interesting because you didn't get a really good start in that first race. I think you were fifth coming out of turn one, and then you got back in front. Had a bit of a battle with Narloose there. I think you got back into third place around the fourth lap or something like that. But Brock crashed out from second on lap three, had a big buster. And mostly it was a kind of that particular race was pretty much what would you call it? Like um, it was more like Formula One. It was just nothing really changed over the course of the race. You maintained third position and ended up with the third place at the end. Yeah, what was your take on that particular race? Because
Yeah.
start out the way you.
Yeah, like you said, like I just felt like I was kind of maxed out. Like I didn't have anything extra to it to make a pass or challenge with. I was just we were all sort of relatively similar paced, especially from about half race onwards. We were all about the same sort of speed, and nobody could really make any challenges or get away or anything. It was just sort of we're just stuck in a line there. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, anytime that I tried to um, do anything more to find a bit more speed or try and get closer to because JJ was ahead of me trying to close down JJ like I would end up just running wide, mate. You know, what I mean, I was just on the limit. So anytime that I tried in the extra, like brake a little bit later or, try to open the throttle a little bit earlier, will yeah, just end up running wide or will
yeah,
actually really just end up losing time. So I really need to focus on just trying to be super consistent and
yeah,
try and just hit my marks because yeah, otherwise just you start making errors and running wide here and there and you start going backwards. So yeah, but the way the race sort of panned out there, like Josh had a lot more speed than us early on in the race, and he'd actually made a
yeah,
bit of a gap. But it closed back up again because he made a bit of an error um, down into turn six. I think he said that he got halfway between gears or got a neutral or something like that. I think so. He ended up running quite wide, and that closed things back up again. Crew was going pretty quick. He was going really well. He was quite fast, he was nearly as fast as Josh up until that had seemed like
like
a
three.
radiator issue, and he ended up having a crash there into that first turn. Yeah, like I said, Brock had a crash as well. He had a pretty nasty crash actually. Last
Yeah,
turn, I think he said that he touched a white line. It's quite dusty on the track over the weekend, just as just the dirt that's around near the edges of the track, and it was quite windy, so maybe just a bit of dust on the track and on the white line, and that caused him to crash when he touched it. So
he didn't kick. He
yeah,
he laid there for a few seconds. I don't know if you saw the replay, but he did lay there for a bit, and I went, "Ooh, this is not going to be good."
no, and speaking to him afterwards, I think he ended up going to get some X-rays done like after the weekend because he still had a lot of pain. I think he had a fracture in his shoulder or Yeah, actually broke. Yeah, had a broken bone when he was trying
Oh,
after
really?
that crash, and he obviously raced again in the second race. So
Yeah.
yeah, he sort of soldiered on there. But yeah,
They
pretty
were
nasty
talk
crash.
they were talking through the race that there's a lot of degradation of the tires in that particular one, and they were suggesting that you were holding back and conserving rubber, and you've gone out and burnt out the rubber at Phillip Island in the past, and it kind of looked like that for a while, but then it never panned out that way. Did that ever enter your head?
Look, I was a bit worried about tire life because we were finding that you'd sort of do yeah, whatever it was, 4 or 5 laps. In our runs during practice, we'd do sort of 4 or 5 laps, and then the tire would take a fair bit of a drop. And
Yeah,
I was pretty worried that yeah, come the last sort of few laps of the race, it was going to be a bit of an issue. But it sort of didn't really happen because I think just that because you were maintaining a constant speed and a constant pace, and there was no stops or interruptions or anything like that, it was actually not too bad. So
yeah,
I think when we were doing our runs during practice, like I think we'd stopped in the garage and gone back again. You know what I mean? Never sort of done a consistent 11 lap run. So I think that might have like altered how the tire was, you know, affected how the tire was sort of performing for the longer laps that we were doing during practice. But yeah, in the race, I really thought that it was going to be more of an issue towards the end of the race, but it actually turned out to be fine. So
yeah.
yeah, I was hoping that maybe it would have been more of an issue for maybe
The front
Josh and
runners.
even JJ, but yeah, just they just kept charging on the whole race, and it didn't. Yeah, we all sort of the level of the drop in the tire was the same for everyone.
Yeah. Do you get to know if everyone's running the same compounds? Or
We no, we don't like. There's no like we don't know for sure, but we
yeah,
kind of during the weekend you sort of trying to keep an eye on what everyone's doing, so you make
yeah,
sure that you're on the right track, and nobody's doing something left of field and they're getting an advantage. You know what I mean? So yeah, we keep an eye on it as much as we can, but you're still kind of guessing, I suppose. You never really know what
yeah,
someone's up to.
yeah, yeah. They don't publicize it. They don't put it on the TV.
No, no, and yeah, and I think they do that for GP and World Superbike. So you sort of
Yeah, they do.
if you're watching, you can sort of see what everyone's doing because yeah, we do have the option to try different compounds throughout the weekend. But typically, what ends up happening is there's just like one particular tire is the
Mm,
better tire for the
yeah,
track, and it's more about what's better for the track, not what's better for each rider or each bike. You know what I mean? It's just like that's a good tire for that
yeah.
track, and everybody runs it.
Do they have like do you get Pirelli support in the background that come around and talk about tires? Because and again, I'm coming from MotoGP where they've got the Michelin folk are moving around and they're having a very active role in suggesting which tires and minimum tire pressures and things like that. Do you have that level of Pirelli interaction and guidance?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah, Pirelli are there on hand throughout the weekend, and there's like obviously in GP level, I think there's like one representative per team, you know what I mean? So there's
Yeah,
quite a
yeah,
lot, but it's not quite like that. We got a few Pirelli reps there that yeah get through the paddock and yeah, I mean most of the circuits there's not really too much of an issue, but say for example Phillip Island's typically one that the tire is quite a bit of an issue. So trying to get some feedback from Pirelli just to see what the other guys are doing, and sometimes there is a
yeah,
minimum pressure that we need to run, or they give us a bit of an idea on what pressure to run. Maybe even I say, for example, some of the cold. Sometimes when we go to like a colder track, and the temperature's quite low, then they try to sort of give us a bit of advice as to which tire might be best, or yeah,
yeah,
again, just pressure really, and
yeah.
also a little bit too on like the with the tire warmer, like what temperature to run the tire warmer at,
All right.
and yeah, and how long to run it for, because that seems to make a bit of a difference as to how the tire performs as well. So, but generally speaking, that's dealt with the mechanics. That's not really sort of. I,
It's
I
not
just
your
get I
issue.
just get to ride it.
So you got a third place in the first one. Race two, uh, basically you were fourth by the time they hit a red flag. So they had a red flag due to track conditions. And then you've come back in and then you've done a restart. And then the restart was completely different. I mean, you and JJ got a massive jump on everyone right at the start, and Josh went right back to seventh, I believe, something like that. And then on the third lap of that 9 lap restart, you took the lead and you never looked back. It was kind of the whole length of the race. You could see it. There was a bit of a closing of a gap, and then it'd open up a little bit between you and JJ. Then it'd close up. Josh Waters made his way up to third. And then right on that last lap, you created a bigger gap. I think it was one part of the biggest gap of the race. So, yeah, pretty cool. You ended up with the first on that race. Yeah. What was your take? What was different about that race for you? Because the first start before the red flag and then the restart were completely different.
Yeah, so obviously in the first part of the race, it was probably going to look like it'd be very similar to what happened in race one.
Yeah.
Josh got away well. Yeah, crew was ahead there, and I think I was even behind JJ at that point, like I said, back and forth. So it's probably going to be a little bit the same as race one, but then yeah, unfortunately, I had I think an oil spill on the track, so
Mm.
had the red flag in the restart. And it's probably just a lot of luck in a sense. Like
Mm.
crew had again like issues with the radiator, so he wasn't able to even start start in the
Mm.
restarted part of the race. And Josh got a quite a bad start, I suppose, initially. So
Mm.
and I started well, and JJ started well, and yeah, like I mean that's it sort of highlights how when the Ducatis get the jump early and get to the front, how difficult it is to recover from that. You know what I mean? Like we
Mm.
just lack the outright speed to
Yeah.
close down the gap. You know what I mean? But if we're able to get to the front like relatively early, then it gets a little bit harder for them even to challenge, for the win. So we did make a change from race one to race two. We had a suspension change to the bike, and that definitely helped a little bit. And I think also me just knowing that how the tire was going to perform, over the distance, and knowing
Mm.
that in race two, like we had a shortened restart of 9 laps, so it's kind of more like not having to worry so much about what the tire might do. I just got to get into it, need to get into it, get going. So, um, yeah, and again, it's sort of just a lot of luck, like in a sense that
Yeah.
um, I was able to get to the front, get going pretty quickly without sort of any hindrances or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Well, you can see that, with the Ducatis down the straight and even the Honda.
mm,
Like the Hondas are really fast down the straight. I was surprised. And then they're definitely closing the gap in those faster areas, where they get a bit of a run. But yeah, obviously hard to pass.
yeah. Well, I
You,
think if you
you,
look at
yeah.
when you look at the race, and the races over the weekend, like I didn't make a pass on anyone down the straight. Like all my
Mm.
passes are through the back of the track, generally on the brakes going
Yeah.
into a turn. There's sort of not really anywhere that you can sort of do it on a change of direction or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's generally just on the brake going into turns. But and I think if you look at the trap speeds down the straight, we're giving away it's at the maximum it's about 10k an hour, which is most laps that you give away 10k an hour. But it's not just the outright top speed that's an issue; it's the acceleration off the turns. Like
Yeah.
you lose when I'm behind. The gap opens up. Whatever 2-3 bike lengths pretty much off every turn, and then the strength that I have is being able to be strong on the brakes and corner entry. But all that does is just bring you back to where you were. You know what I mean? So it's just this
Yeah.
sort of yo-yo effect that goes on, and I feel like because you're so close to the limit that it only takes, like I said in race one, you just you try to, push your braking marker 1 or 2 meters later to try and
Yeah.
find a little bit extra speed, but all that ends up happening is you just lose it in the middle and the exit of the turn, and that costs you more time then. So that's kind of where we're at.
Is it a
And that
is it
makes it.
a is it for them, their ability to get out of the turn? Is it a power thing or is it a throttle timing thing or is it a traction thing? What is it?
Yeah, it's definitely like an outright power
Oh,
acceleration thing that's going like a difference in the power of the bikes. Yeah, that's definitely that. Like I said, like obviously I've ridden directly behind Josh and raced with Josh throughout the year,
mm,
and there's like again, like I said, like my passes are on the brakes, but Josh's
Mm.
passes are generally being able to, get off the turn well and use that acceleration to go past. Um, but yeah, so it's definitely that. Part of it too is I think that like from an electronics point of view, I find that I'm riding a lot in my hand. Like we've got electronics and
Right.
it is
Yeah.
working and it is helping. But I'm managing it through the race, the tire degradation,
Mm.
managing it all in your hand. And I think that, I've ridden Magneti Morelli before. That's a system that the Dukes use.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's far superior. It's definitely allows you to, you as a rider, it's more easy because you don't have to be as precise with the throttle. You can go, let's say you're coming off a turn, you know what I mean? And me as a rider, I'm trying to progressively just open the gas and progressively roll it on based on my feeling for traction and the limit there. Whereas if you've got a good electronic system that aids the rider, what it does, it just lets you can go past, what I mean, in your hand, you're allowed
Yeah.
to open the
Yeah.
throttle and go past where you need to be, but the traction control won't let it give it any more power than what it's sensing, is the limit for traction.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't be as
Yeah, I do.
precise in your hand, and it'll catch up, So,
But
I think that makes a difference too.
it's such a mental thing. Like, old school riders, this is your throttle control kind of thing. Shifting to that, I mean, how much of a mental change is it to roll that gas on beyond what you would think you could, under normal circumstances?
Yeah, well, and that's tricky, you know what I mean? And it takes a bit to learn that. I think like a good example of that would be Crew Halliday. He's come
Mm,
from Yamaha and ridden Yamaha for so long,
true.
and now he's jumped onto the Ducati and it's got all that this style of electronics on it, and it hasn't taken that long, you know what I mean? He's already
Yeah.
already like at the last
Yeah.
round, he's going really fast. So it takes a few rounds, but he's spoken about how he has to change his style and get
Mm,
confidence with the bike, you know what I mean? Because that's a different way of riding it. And I think that
yeah.
you've got to be able to trust that, I'm gonna ask for, more than what I think I can get, in my hand. Gonna ask for more of that, but trust that the electronics are gonna basically catch me and save me and give me just the most as what I can
Yeah.
take, what the tire can take. So
I wonder if that
yeah.
affects them, like if they get used to that, like in Crew's case, and then come back to, back to the older electronics. I wonder how much of, an issue that is. Because I always think about that in
Yeah.
terms of, the Ducati riders in MotoGP going to KDM and all that, and they're struggling a bit. They go right back, you
Yeah.
you know?
I'd,
Um,
I'd imagine that it would be more difficult, yeah, going the other way. I think
yeah,
going from riding it a lot more in your hand and then going to electronics would be easier than having
you would,
electronics do a lot of it and you having to go
yeah,
back the other way.
you would
Um,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, like I said, I've ridden with them, the electronics, and it's very confidence inspiring. Like I know that
Mm,
you've got to get a sense of trust with it, but once you've got that,
mm,
like yeah, you just lean on it. You know what I mean? You just open the gas, you just lean on it, and you get to a point where you're like, wow, this is yeah, it feels good because you're not scared. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like it's yeah, doesn't let it hang out too far, and it's just yeah, it's
yeah.
really really good.
If you look back over the year, like I think you had some issue where you didn't finish a race. It was kind of the front half wasn't as good as the back half. Do you ever get a sense or get a sense that had you like been performing like you were at the end, you and the team and the bike, that it would have been a realistic chance of winning the championship?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit hard to like. I mean, the tracks probably in the second part of the year end up favouring us a bit better. Like, I mean, One Raceway, we had a good result there. The Bend is one that it's got a lot more turns in it, so it's one that we can sort of keep the gap a bit closer. And we got very lucky there, I'd say in a sense. But um, yeah, I think we probably went to well, Morgan Park should have been a double win for us there, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a technical issue with the bike, which meant a DNF in one of the races, which was very unfortunate. Um, wouldn't say, I mean, Phillip Islands is the track that's definitely a weakness
Mm.
for us. I don't know that we can really close that gap down
But
to the point where we can challenge for a win. Eastern Creek's probably one that I should be able to do better at, and I'm probably not getting the most out of it there. But yeah, it's sort of hard to say. Really, reality of it is yeah, you can't have any DNFs. Zero,
Yeah, right.
we had a DNF, so can't have any. The killer is the wet races or the tricky, like the half wet, half dry races. Like they're the ones where, you know, any race, almost any race in the dry, I'm challenging for the podium or the win. But the wet races, I'm back in like 10th place. You
Mm,
know what I mean? And
mm,
you just can't be giving away that many points. That ends up being, you know, let's say Josh wins those races and I'm finishing 10th. You know what I mean? It's like 10 or so points at a time. You know what I mean? It's a big chunk
mm.
that you lose in one go. So, yeah, I'd say for me more than anything, like as a weakness would be yeah, having to do better in the wet and the
Right.
mixed conditions,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like we've got good speed in the dry. Obviously, we have it's challenging, but we do have good speed in the dry. Like I said, when it is dry, we're generally challenging for the podium. Yeah, yeah, we need to just work on our weaknesses now.
Yeah. It's still pretty good result, like can't complain too much. There's a few people knocking on the back behind you, coming up, sneaking up on both of you, I think. Well,
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, I'm stoked. Like
mm,
speaking about, obviously you want to go and win, right? Like, and
yeah.
nobody wants to lose, but
No.
but I mean, I know that yeah, I just know the situation and where we're at, and I think that you just got to focus on what you can do and what like as
Yeah.
a team with our package, you know what I mean? And I really think that yeah, what we're doing is pretty incredible. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
anytime that we actually win a race, to me is like it's really probably shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
really shouldn't. Like that's the reality. It shouldn't happen, but we're still able to be there and challenge for it. So I think that we're
Mm.
doing all right.
Isn't it funny how ASBK is reflecting MotoGP?
Yeah,
Like the whole thing with the bikes.
yeah,
It's just like a mirror image of it. It's interesting. You got one rider really powering away on the Yamahas and
yeah,
producing results. A lot of, you know, kudos to the riders, yourself and Quadraro and people like that who can get the most out of them. What's your plans now for 2026? We'll talk about the way they're going to structure it in a sec, but for you personally, you've got a break now because I think you kick off with an early one in February. So you start in February for a short season.
yeah,
And are you with the Yamaha team next year? Is that going to continue? And what's your plans now leading up to that?
yeah. So I'm very happy. Like as you know, like bike racing and stuff in general, it's always pretty tricky to
Mm,
have a deal and keep things going. So got some good loyalty there with Yamaha. I think they believe in me, and I'm really happy working with the team. So yeah, we're going to continue again next year. And basically, yeah, like next year's a short season. We start with World Superbike in February and we run through till I think it's June. I think it's a five rounds for us in that season, whereas normally we
yeah.
do sort of maybe seven or 8 rounds. You know what I mean? Like we did 8 rounds this year, so um, bit of a short season. But yeah, over the next what do we got? We sort of got 2 months basically to get things sorted. But the good thing is, in a sense, that our bike, for the most part, doesn't really change a lot. So it's only small. We'll do small refinements. We've
Mm,
got some plans and some things that I know that we're already starting to work on to try and improve for next year. But yeah, some of that will happen to the bike. There's not a lot, but it'll be a little bit. For me personally, I'll actually be down at Tasmania next weekend. Got a
oh,
2 hour event on down there that I try and get down to as often as I can. I've been going there since 2015 and doing the club 2 hour race down there, and it's a lot of fun. So another chance for me to just be on the bike. I'll be on an R1, and just keeps my eye in a little bit and
yeah.
have a bit of fun. And then yeah, Christmas time we'll have a bit of a break and just chill out over Chrissy, and then straight back into testing in January and early Feb to try and get to we'll probably get to Eastern Creek and or Sydney Motorsport Park and try and do some riding there and same at Phillip Island. They'll be our first rounds coming up next year, so we'll try to get to those tracks and just get some testing in and get ready for the start of next year.
Yeah. Well, speaking of next year, it's going to be an interesting one because it kind of is going to be different. The way they've organised it, for those who haven't heard, they've got what they refer to as the summer series. And the way that's going to work is there's going to be a short 5 round season at the beginning of the year. And that, as you said, it's going to go February, March, May, and then June. And it's just going to be 5 tracks: Phillip Island, City Motorsport Park, The Bend, Morgan Park, Queensland Raceway. It's going to end in your favour at the back end of that 5 round sequence. And then they're going to take a few months break. So July, August, September will be a break. And then the ASBK Summer Series, which I think is going to be an ongoing thing by the looks of it, is going to start in October and then end in April 2027. That's going to be a 7 round series. So what are your thoughts about the summer series itself? Because that kind of changes everything. There's racing in December, January, when normally there wouldn't be, in February even. So how's it going to affect you? How's it going to affect the teams? What's the thoughts of the riders about that?
Yeah, look, it's a little bit hard to know for sure until you do it. You know what I mean? Like I'm open to it. I think obviously just the most obvious thing is we're racing through summer, so it'll be
Mm.
hot. There'll
Yeah,
be track conditions will be probably more greasy than normal. And I guess there's potential for maybe more rain during summer. So
yeah,
there's sort of like some first things just thinking about conditions wise. But realistically, like for me, it's it shouldn't really matter. You know what I mean? It's
mm,
the go to the racetrack. The conditions are the same for everybody. Go and
mm,
have a plan and do your job. So there's let's just get focused and try and get the most out of yourself on the
yeah,
weekends. I do think, yeah, I guess it'll just be interesting to see how that works over Christmas time. You know what I mean? I know that people will be trying to have a break and take
yeah,
it easy, I guess, over Chrissy, but we'll be sort of trying to stay focused, and that'll be our season. So we're trying to stay focused for racing. So
yeah,
um, don't know how that'll work for everybody. I do
yeah,
think, yeah, I do think that. I do think that'd be good in a sense if we can sort of maybe shorten the season down because in the past,
mm,
we'll say this year, for example, we went February to November, and in the past we've gone even February to December,
mm,
and you don't really get a lot of don't get a downtime there. You sort of get a month off, maybe what I mean, if you're lucky, and then you sort of straight back into testing. Whereas if we can sort of shorten the season down and get more racing done in a shorter amount
yeah,
of time, I think that's definitely better. It's better because it means it should mean less testing. Like I think that the reality is at the moment where nearly everybody tests before each round. So say for example this year we did 8 rounds, but if everybody's going and testing once before every round, well you're kind of doing
16 rounds.
16 rounds almost, you know what I mean? So if we just sort of like get rid of the testing and or reduce the amount of tests you're going to do, you're still going to do
Yeah,
something obviously in January, you know what I mean? Sorry, yeah, it's going to change now the timing of
mm,
leading up to it, but you're going to do a month out from the start of the season, you'll do a couple of tests. But if we're going to be racing sort of once every sort of 4 weeks kind of thing, once every month, potentially, then there's less time between rounds, and I think that going racing more frequently is better
mm,
anyway. Like, I know that some people want to go testing to have things that they want to test, but the best way to test that stuff is almost on a race weekend because it's at
yeah,
maximum intensity. You know what I mean? Like, you can go testing, but in my experience, I don't think you ever ride at the same intensity or the same level that you would, on a race weekend. So you really get to compare and see, the improvements that you make with your bike or whatever it is that you're trying to improve, on a race weekend. So yeah, I'm definitely all for more racing, and get more racing done in a short amount of time, and then have a bit more of a sort of like I said, we're probably going to get sort of maybe 3 months kind of break, and I think it'd be better to have a good sort of solid break.
yeah,
Um, and then there's just doesn't feel like it's just rolling on every year, rolls into another year. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Sort of break
Well,
it up a little bit. So
well, the way they got it now, it feels like forever between events. Like some of
yeah,
them are like 6 months, 6 months, 6 weeks,
yeah,
8 weeks. Like it feels forever, and it's almost like it loses momentum. I get a sense that if they squash it up, that momentum maintains public interest. Because, let's face it, you're looking for crowds and you're looking for, fans to follow it.
Yeah.
I heard some suggestion that the summer series is also one of the reasons for it is it opens it up to riders who are racing in Europe and overseas to come and compete in some of the rounds, particularly when they're in their off season. Is that something that would affect you guys in any way, or is that something you guys enjoy?
Yeah, I don't know how that'd work. Let's say if we're thinking like international riders, let's say, and we're talking, European riders or whoever's over there, talking about them coming to Australia to race. I don't know if that would be something that's going to happen, but what it might do is know that there's a bunch of Aussies, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
that are away racing in European championships or, overseas. It might let them be able to, still do still do their championships that they want to do over there, but then they might want to keep riding through their off season through summer. So it could mean that we could have
yeah,
extra riders in the championship and Aussie riders in the championship. So from that perspective, I think that could be good. You know what I mean?
yeah. Because
Just
I
yeah,
think Jack did that. He's come over and raced at the Bend on that cat sponsored superbike.
yeah,
When he
and
was the
that's
caddy.
yeah. So that's a year where they sort of ran the championship into December.
Mm,
To try and help bring some of those like
yeah,
Jack and Josh Hawke, and I think there was Marcel Schrotter. Some of those guys were able to come and do that race, but obviously for the guys who race the championship normally that spreads it from February to December, makes it a really really long season, and then you don't get
yeah,
much off time, off season. Whereas this maybe that's going to be our normal championship, so it doesn't really change anything for us, and maybe it helps bring
yeah,
some of those guys some of those guys into the championship. So, yeah, and that there's no doubt about that. It creates more excitement and everything for
yeah.
everybody watching too. So, that could be good. I hope that hopefully some of those guys can come and do it.
It'd be good for the
One,
sport,
yeah,
like
yeah, that's right.
exposure
Yeah,
and all,
yeah,
with fans and I don't know how much they talk to you about the fan side of it, but it's not like Spain, obviously. It's not a you get people go to cricket and soccer and rugby league and Aussie rules, obviously.
yeah,
But by those guys coming over, if it was Senna Agius and Jack and the Joel Kelso and whomever, it would definitely affect the fan base, you would think, and give it more exposure. Do they ever talk to you guys about strategies or ways to bring fans in and kind of make it a bigger spectacle?
Not really. I mean, yeah, not that doesn't really tend to happen, to be honest. Yeah, that's not something. Just everybody turns up, goes racing, and goes home. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I definitely think that yeah, obviously having guys like Jack Miller or those international riders, you know what I mean, coming in, it's more exciting. So yeah, definitely for the fans, it's really good. And I think
yeah,
to like mention, just shortening it up a bit. It's a bit easier to follow, a bit easier to know when something's on, what's going. Is sort of yeah, otherwise, like I said, you lose interest between
yeah.
races, and you don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? So
You kind of
yeah,
forget.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, it becomes a long time between rounds.
yeah,
So if you
yeah,
make it a little bit more consistent too, like well, it's every sort of 4 weeks, and if you're somebody that's following along, where you sort of know, oh yeah, must be nearly time to go racing again. So
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a wrap for the year. I thanks for, I really appreciate the fact that you come on and do this and give us the insight from your side of it, which most people are not going to see. But the other one is thanks for answering all the questions that we ask, the technical stuff, because I get feedback from people. I go, oh, I never knew that, about pit boards and
yeah,
then I had a few people follow up on the practice conversation we had. So really appreciate your input from a technical perspective because it's definitely helping people. So very
yeah,
cool.
I enjoyed it a lot too. Thanks for having us on. Like, I mean, it's awesome because it's like I think we've spoken about it before. Like, I mean, you do an interview on a race weekend, it was a bit more formal, whereas doing a
Yeah,
podcast like this, you sort of chit chat, is a bit more relaxing, and yeah, get a bit more about thoughts and what's going on. So yeah, hopefully it's a bit of an insight for people that are watching, and yeah, hope they enjoy it. And yeah, I suppose I just want to say thanks to whoever's listening. Yeah, like hope you enjoy it, and hope we can do
yeah,
more of it next year. And yeah,
yeah.
it's good. So I
Yeah.
enjoyed it a lot
There's only
too.
one disappointment. You know what it is, eh?
Stoppy,
Of
I've done.
course.
I've done a stoppie. I've got to get a photo. I've done a stoppie. I've done a stoppie heading to the grid when I was warming my brakes up. So I've just
Did you
got
get a
to
photo?
I've got to get proof yet now. But
We
I can
need
say I've done it.
we need proof for the
Yeah.
it would definitely be the episode image.
When I
Okay,
get
so
one,
you
I'll send it to you.
okay, next year.
I've got 5 rounds to get it done.
Yeah, I got to talk to Steve actually. Steve, if he does a stopper, you got to get a shot of it because he's
Well,
always there.
he's the guy to do it because he's at the track every round. So
Yeah,
I'll get him on the pit wall and he can film it for you.
yeah, yeah. He got married.
Yeah, I was down there for his wedding, yeah, last weekend. So
Wow, shout out
yeah,
to Steve. Awesome. That's
yeah, yeah,
fantastic. He's a happy man now.
yeah. Congratulations. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, him and Susie, they've come to well, yeah, pretty much nearly every round for the last couple of
Nice.
years.
Yeah,
You know, having
yeah,
Steve there as a rider coach for me, and you know
yeah,
Susie's support, and it's been really cool to see. So yeah, it was good to be there for them, and yeah, it was a really great day and evening. You know, so yeah,
yeah,
it's great. Yeah.
yeah. No, very good. Well, listen, thanks again. Congratulations for second place. Fingers crossed for next year. Can't wait to see you in the next year. Have an awesome Christmas. Have a great break, and you're going to kick off in February. So we're looking forward to it.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.